Hey Ryan.
Good afternoon, Mr. LaShawn.
Good afternoon, Ryan. Tell me if this is fine. The dog in my house keeps following me, and they have a little bell on them. So I'm outside right now. I hope that none of the wind gets in the way of the audio. But
This should be fine. I might have snowmobiles ripping by in my house too, and they're pretty loud.
Do you have a snowmobile?
I don't have one. Andrew's got one, but
Dang, I really want one, but
you kind of need a license, sort of. So I'm a bit picky about driving it.
is it like with what am I trying to say? Like, I know motorcycles, you have to get a whole license for. It's the same process.
Nope. It's a lot easier than that. You pretty much just got to get a plate on the snowmobile itself. You don't have to be fully licensed, and you don't need your own insurance and that kind of stuff. But I'm really spoiled, to tell you the truth. A lot of people use snowmobiles to commute up here, or like just to get groceries and stuff, because like my car can barely drive down the street. You know what I mean? So, but I don't need to go grocery shopping. That's why I'm spoiled. So I don't need to worry about this stuff, really.
It's a good life to live, actually. Like, after I stopped eating so much, like I took some of your advice like earlier of last year, and I was like, okay, let me try this sugar thing. Cut this. Actually have no craving for it, and all of that went away, and I was so surprised. Like, one day a smoothie filled me up. I was like, whoa. Like, for the whole day.
It is pretty amazing. Our stomachs are so small. Most people don't realize they're so small. We're used to eating way more than we're supposed to.
Yeah, it's crazy. Overall, I'm excited about this topic. I already told you I've been reading stuff. Now, how that translates over here, we'll see. But the minute you said ego, I was like, I definitely love this topic, because it was something that through my life I've been trying to achieve. And I wanted to say, I, as I said before, uncle had passed away, and that was one of the people that I looked to. But now, and I claim you as, like, I say you're like, he's my mentor. And because, like, everything, you're like the epitome of what, not making, what am I trying to say? Seek wealth, not status, Don't try to be wealthy. Don't try to be, I don't really know how to put it. I apologize.
Well, let's get into it. And I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. And it's still kind of weird for me taking this position, but this is all wisdom of the ages, basically. And I've heard this from a million other places too. So you said a bunch of things. I've got a few notes here. The first major thing, because the topic here is ego, right? There should be a title on this video or whatever, but the topic is ego. Last time we talked about confidence. Well, the way that I see confidence is faith, right? I've said many times faith and fear are opposites. The way I see the ego is fear. The ego is the physical representation, the physical manifestation of fear. And fear of loss, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of whatever. Image not being what our expectations is. Fear-based. Ego is all fear-based. The ego is the bully. The bully is the one that takes it personally and has to take revenge. The bully is the one that has to demean others and stuff like that. And you mentioned the word trying to achieve ego death. That's a very admirable thing. Most people seem to stumble into it. The most ego deaths that I'm familiar with come from bankruptcies, heartbreak, really just having to swallow your pride for some reason, ego death. And it can be a devastating kind of thing. Psychedelic drugs can be another pathway to it. It can be a very, very heart-wrenching thing. So trying to achieve it is a bit of a strange thing, but I commend you for it, because one of the main points here is that we really only learn through pain, right? We really only grow through pain. We only grow through failure. The ego is going to be afraid of all of that pain and all that rejection and all that failure. And so the person with ego, they're pretty much destined to kind of be nobodies. You're not going to be able to compete in the real world. You can have a job if you have an ego and you got lots of pride. You can have a job, but you're really probably not going to be a salesperson. You're probably not going to climb a corporate ladder, despite the Hollywood depiction. You really have to be hard. You can't be emotional and take all these things personal and stuff. You won't go anywhere. Anybody who's anybody will see it all over you, and they'll see that as a driving force, right? Fear is very easily a driving force. It can be a primary driving force, and it's really a bad thing. And when somebody is seeking, like what you said, wealth status, when they're seeking the attention on purpose, almost always it's ugly. Almost always it's going to end badly or just look badly in general or go nowhere. And there's not much actual benefit to it. Whereas if you are just focused on giving value, you're focused on building your business, you're focused on collecting responsibilities, you don't even have time to worry about most of the stuff. You know what I mean? Like the criticisms, you will get criticism. Mention that no matter what you do, you'll get criticisms. But I mean, if you're busy and just focused on what you're doing, you really can't even hear the criticisms. You can hear it in terms of, is it productive, or did I make a mistake? You know what I mean? Oh, wow, I made a mistake. That's criticism, but you're not taking it personally. And you can't hear the criticism, the real criticism. You can't hear the haters. You can only really just smile about it. And that's what successful people do. And it's not something they have to try to do. It's just because they're busy. Once you've collected enough responsibilities, you just don't have time to fuss about all that stuff, all the criticism, whatever. What do people think? You don't have time to care. You have too many responsibilities, basically. There's too much on the line. The swallowing pride phrase, I want to let you ask any questions that you have too, but this is kind of the gist of it. The whole swallowing pride thing, someone who's not willing to swallow their pride just won't go anywhere. You can't do sales if you can't swallow your pride. You can't. You have to get rejected. You will. It's not physically possible. All this stuff operates on statistics, ratios, right? We got to give 10 presentations to make a sale. You got to get rejected 9 times. You got to fail to invent the light bulb. You can't just succeed right away. The ego wants to succeed right away, or at least it's too scared of the consequences of failure that most times it won't try, right? The person with ego won't try to put themselves out there. You think about what it takes to be like an actor or something. They take you to drama class. I personally couldn't do drama class in high school because of fear. I had too much ego. I'm not going to get on stage and sing. I can't sing. People are going to judge me. I'm going to look silly. To be an actor, you have to disappear your pride. You have to kill your ego, or it'll get killed for you. The first time you get booed on stage, if you don't swallow your pride right away, you might go home and kill yourself. Once you put your neck out there, someone's going to try and cut it. But you have to just be focused on the applause. You have to be, or at least realistic in this whole thing. A lot of this is just understanding. Let me hand it back to you after this kind of analogy. A lot of this is just truth, and us not accepting truth. Ego not accepting truth. Say your mom's fat, and someone calls your mom fat, and you get upset. Are you upset because that she's fat, or are you upset that someone's pointing it out? Now, the person who said it, if they said it to be mean, they might not have. Depends on the context. If they said it to be mean, that only says something bad about them. The hate only says something about the haters. So that doesn't matter. There's no reason to take that personally. But if you haven't, for some reason, accepted the truth, and you're upset by the truth, that's on you. That's not on the world, right? So if someone comes and says, your painting sucks, I mean, I'm not going to be emotionally affected by this. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm presenting. And I also know the limitations of what I'm doing. The criticism might be valid. And if it's not, then it doesn't matter at all. At all. And the further you go, you talk to any real boss figures, they just don't care. You want to insult them right there, they probably won't care. They probably won't like you, but they're not going to flinch and be like, let's take this out in the parking lot. Powerful people don't do that, right? It's the weak person that you step on their white shoe and they might try and kill you. That's the extremely weak, extremely fragile, ego-driven person, right?
And that's like, you just brought up something in my mind of how when I used to do, because my mom wanted me to be an actor and stuff, and I had energy, ADHD and stuff. But the coach, when we would have shows, he would literally, like, if the audience wasn't going to do it, he would do it. Like, in the middle of the show, I remember this one kid wasn't speaking loud enough, and he yelled at the top of his lungs, like, I cannot hear you. And the kid was just standing there, like, staring. and they had to close the curtains and stuff like that. And but I was like, dang, and like seeing that, like his drive, like how he. And that's another thing I'm working on, not saying like so much. Like once you pointed it out, I tried to limit that. But anyways, yeah, he called him out and everything. But what that instilled in me was, preparation and stuff like that. And I feel like when most people that have egos also worry way too much, and they have this position where they're like, oh yeah, well, they got this. I'm so scatterbrained today, but let's just say my mom and her sisters are going on vacation. They'll spend like 5 hours planning out everything, only for that not to go right. And then they're like, oh, what do we do now? And then they're like running all over the place. And then it's like with me and my brother, we're like, where are we going? Oh, okay, cool. And that's it. And like, I feel like people put too much into life, really, like too much about, oh, I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. So we got to do this. I don't want this. To like, just go with the flow, because you can really die like any moment. The like, accidents are what, like the top 3 or 4 killing thing in America or something like that. It like life is very uncertain, and yeah.
Well, even worse than that, there's when you start to play that game, the what if game, it's really, really a losing game, because we could sit here all day saying, what if this worst case scenario? What if this even worse case scenario? Right? Really, the only what if that the successful, focused person should entertain at all is, what if we win? Right? What if we finish this project?
Yeah.
What if we market it? What if we put the footwork in? Right? What if I don't expect everybody to do the best that they possibly can? What if I expect the least out of them, and I build systems to squeeze the maximum efficiency out of every effort that we put into, right? What if the positive happens? What if we can take control? What if all this stuff? The opposite, the egotistical, is what if I fail? What if people judge me? And so it just has to be completely eliminated. This is, I think, why ego death is such a strong term. It's death. It means this is yes or no. It's not partially fear-based decision-making and then partially just rational responsibility-based thinking. It doesn't work like that. It's one or the other. And somebody who has a fear-based way of thinking, which is an egotistical way of thinking, that has to be broken. Maybe something in life happens that breaks it for them. Maybe they've never had to beg for help. Maybe something happens that, knocks them down a few pegs and they get humbled. These common words to describe the experience. But the most, I think the most surefire way to do it is just by having a responsible life. This is sort of what they call maturity. The person that just has to eventually suck it up and swallow the pride and go work in the salt mines. 30 years later, they end up humbled and mature and stoic, and not all that concerned about the little things, not all that concerned about being judged. They've already made up their mind that they're going to do what they need to do, and that they're going to do their best. And if they're criticized still on top of that, they couldn't have changed it. This is why I call it faith, right? The confidence is faith. If we follow the systems, if I put all the paint on the canvas, I mean, I will have a complete canvas. It might not be the best thing in the world, and I'm at peace with that, right? Unrealistic expectations being the number one cause of disappointment. A lot of this is expectation based and just straight up a lack of faith.
What do you think, like, causes so many, like, the majority of the people nowadays, it seems like they're ego driven primarily? And to me, I feel like primary school does that in a way. But I didn't really look into it that much. And I just wanted to ask you, like, what do you think causes people to have these type of mindsets and whatnot?
Oh, I have an opinion. I think it's a lack of skills and a lack of responsibility. And both of those things, like you mentioned primary school, I think one of the worst things that we've done in modern times is take away skills and responsibility. Say, no, everybody's just equal. You're just special. Everybody's special. Everybody's all good. Everybody gets a participation trophy.
Everybody wins. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's real, and I don't think that helps people gain confidence or skills. You know, I think I was fortunate to be born right before basically technology kind of took over, because I say now the kids now your age and younger, even my age, literally, nobody has to do anything anymore. You can just look cool online. You just put some sunglasses on and stand outside and take a picture that's facing up at you a little bit. You look cool. It's easy. Back when I was a kid, you had to do stuff.
True.
Right? Who are you? Right? Who are you? Why do you stand out from this pack of other kids? What are you doing? We didn't have social profiles. You know, nobody had skills outside of whatever. So we had to develop skills. I chose art. It was non-physical. Some people played baseball. Some people got cars and fixed their cars, but they gained skills in life. Number one, those skills make them feel good and productive and give them something to do, because boredom is one of the biggest diseases out there. You know, boredom. I think it's an insult to God, boredom, basically, right? People have said that, and I agree. So not having skills, you're going to be bored, first of all. Not having responsibility, then what do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Really? And both, again, these things have just been taken away. Even in, like, say you're going to school as a kid and you're led to believe that if you go to college and you just get a job and it'll be all good, you're not being taught responsibility at all. You're really not. You're taught to be dependent on the system.
True.
You know, and you here are venturing into being an independent business person, and this really is what this is. You're going against the system, and going against the system means really is taking responsibility for yourself. It is much easier to just be a civilian. It is easier to go and eat McDonald's and go to your job and shut up, right? There's nothing else being asked of you. It's quite easy to just pay the bills and just go home at night and whatever. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to face rejection. You know, you don't have to try and fail. You don't have to recruit anybody. You don't have to spread any information. You don't have to campaign. You don't have to make any marketing material. You don't have to do anything. Lack of responsibility. It's no wonder that depression and anxiety and all this stuff is endemic, just as obesity and blood sugar is, because this is a world without responsibility, the Western world. And it's a world without skills. And it's a world where we're teaching people that it's okay not to have skills. It's okay to just be you and just express yourself, even if you don't. I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but like I feel pretty strongly about this.
No.
It's okay to just be you and just get on social media and just give your opinion. Don't worry, your opinion is valid no matter what. Well, I don't believe this, right? Your opinion is only valid within your field.
True.
That's the truth, you know. And so if you don't have a field, and most people don't have a field, I feel bad for them, right? They're just walking around. I don't have anything particular about me. Well, that sucks, but it's not just automatically supplied for you. Right. In order to gain skills, you kind of have to take this into your own hands for the most part. You can go and be an apprentice for a mechanic and you can learn about cars, but it's only one skill. We kind of need a variety of skills. You know, the natural human being out there in the wild, they're going to have a variety of skills and a variety of functions within their community. Functions means responsibilities. Think again of this modern person. If you really wanted to, LaShawn, you could go on welfare. You could get a tiny little apartment. You would never need to interact with the world. You don't need to contribute anything. You right?
Yeah.
You could do this. Whereas for a lot of people in a lot of the rest of the world, I mean, this is just not an option. And so we won't have depression in the type of scenario where you have an overwhelming amount of responsibility, basically, that you actually want. It's not just being thrusted upon you. So why are people more egocentric? Because they don't have skills and responsibility. And let me say this faith thing again, too, because it's number one, I have some sort of skills. I've put the time in. I have faith that doing something repeatedly is going to make me better at it. I have gotten better. I have seen the progress. Therefore, there is a lot less to be criticized in the first place. I have a more realistic understanding, so I have a more realistic way to interpret the criticism anyways. Mm-hmm. But I also have faith that whoever's doing the criticizing is probably in a bad space themselves. It probably has nothing to do with me. One of the worst assumptions we can make is that, oh, this is personal, right? Taking it personal. This has something to do with me. This person's criticism is directed at me. I just don't think that is the case. And if it is the case, I don't care, right? And I don't care because I have too much responsibility. Truthfully, it would be irresponsible of me to lose focus and even respond to a criticism. Today, I did another call in the morning. I woke up early. I did the DMs, and I'm sitting in front of a painting I'm doing right now. I have way too much to do to worry about that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I just said boredom earlier, the bored person is probably going to take a lot of things personally. The bored person is probably grasping hard at something to be proud of.
What is it? Is it
something to
because of
feel
that
good
though?
about.
Do you like? I feel like it's because of that. Like because they only have that one one thing that they're good at. They're like, if it gets taken down, they're like, oh my gosh, they're tearing down my whole life. You know, really, because that's what it is. That's their life. They're only good at what? You know, flipping burgers at McDonald's or something like that. You're the best box maker in there, and then somebody's better, and then you're like, oh well, now what do I do? But
It could be. By the same token, people who are academics are kind of basing a lot of their pride on their intelligence too, right? So I mean, it could even be that they have an attachment or a fear of being wrong more than these other fears of failure. They're not really trying. They have a fear of being wrong. They got to be right. So I think this all goes together, really. And the mature scientist is going to be the same way. They're going to say, look, I've made mistakes before. I know I can be wrong on this. They're just going to present their stuff more realistically. The book I just wrote, I know you read it, Fake Diseases. I've really tried to present it in a way that keeps me off of the hook, right? There's a lot of maybes. You may feel better. This maybe, right? This means I'm not making the most concrete claims either. The immature me made very concrete claims that I had to back up very, very specifically, you know? So this is part of it. It's part of growing and learning. You can try too hard at some things and realize you got to dial it back a little bit. As long as you can take that criticism and you try again, you'll be fine. You know, recently, and by the way, you've done great. I've just thrown you into the bullpit answering the questions.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's 1,000 people could see that. It's a big deal. I remember being shoved out in front of a stage. My professor saying, just don't worry about it. If you mess it up, I'll save you. He didn't save me, you know, but quickly learn, and you quickly learn. And what you can probably see is that it's a bit painful.
Oh yeah.
It's a bit uncomfortable, you know, and not every slide is going to be a win. Some of them are failures. You know, not every presentation is a win. Some of them are failures. All this stuff. And as you go further and further, your ego just will get squeezed to death. Truthfully, there's even with a good mentor or a good opportunity, you just still have to fail. You have to make the mistakes. No matter what, there's no equation to escape it. So you're on the right route here. And by putting yourself into more situations that are potentially embarrassing, scary, basically, by putting yourself into more scary situations, doing things that you're afraid of doing, your ego will just be squeezed to death, and eventually it won't exist. And that's probably without something traumatic like a bankruptcy or a heartbreak or something. But those things could help too. I want to mention even more this about these kids. I sound like an old guy saying these kids these days. Lack of responsibility, lack of skills. This has been said for generations, but I think it's just it's gotten a whole lot worse, you know. And the putting themselves out there too is a whole nother thing. People are just not used to putting themselves out there in really any meaningful way. What is the average risk that the average person is taking in their average day? Minimal, if anything. Right? People get worked up about asking a girl on a date. That's just one little risk of rejection. When you're out there in sales, you're getting rejected all the time. When you're doing talks, you're messing up all the time. You start speaking on record, you're going to mess up and screw up, and you're going to pause and speak too close to the mic sometimes and dangle the glass, stir up your glass of Tangy Tangerine and get the radio guy mad at you. You know, it happens. But that's the only way to grow, and that's the fast track to growth. And I think that's the reason that people under mentorship grow faster, is because the mentor will just push them off the dock and make them swim, right? Whereas our ego will stand there at the edge of the dock and be like, oh, I don't know if I can swim. And then the mature person just doesn't have time, and they just push you in. So we don't have time for you to sit here and play what if I drown? Well, let's see. Bon, right? Chances are we know you're not going to drown. Chances are you might not make the sale, and that's fine. Do it again and again and again and again and again and again. Since we're human beings, we don't like failing. This process tends to streamline itself really, really quickly. The longer we take to do all the practice hours, or, you know, if it takes you 10 years to do your 10,000 phone calls, you could do that in a month. You know, you could clock it out. You could do that 10 years of experience in a month. You're just going to be hardened up. You're going to have heard no 99,000 times,
Yeah.
9,000 times, whatever it is, and you'd be a seasoned veteran. Basically, the veteran is hardened up. It doesn't matter if they're a doctor or a salesperson or a pilot or whatever. The person whose confidence is just, they're not worried about any of this stuff. They're not really fearful. The pilot knows that the plane can potentially crash, but there's no way they're sitting there meditating on that possibility. They're not giving that possibility any validity. I'm saying here that I don't think ego is involved, and I want to let you speak again, but I'm saying too, a lot of people I think have confused ego, for like confidence, and I don't think, I just put them here as opposites, but a lot of people I think will put them together. Like, oh, the star football player who's really good, he's got a big ego.
Mm-mm.
Not necessarily, as long as he understands his limitations, truthfully.
I agree with you completely. And just going even further and saying, like, you see how people, for you, an example, you like seeing that type of version of what you do, like you have your own unique way of doing stuff, and it's admirable. Like, you see, it's like, oh wow, this is a person that's natural and stuff, instead of going under somebody else's shadow. I feel like a lot of people, a lot of kids especially, do that. Like, um they'll copy to a T someone's style or someone's dress or how they, carry themselves, and apply that to how, because they're like, oh, that way was successful. Their little aesthetic was successful. So let me take that and see if I can, get that same type of success. And I just feel I just feel like everybody is doing that same thing. It's following the, 5% of people that have their own style and whatnot. But one podcast, I forget the name of the person, but they were stating how everybody can have a unique aesthetic and do something to make money, basically. And do you feel the same way about that? Like, you can be a plumber, a sales plumber. Like, you said that in one thing. You were like, somebody is plumbing, and then they can sell the vitamins as they plumb or something like that. But I don't believe there's a limit to jobs, a limit to money, a limit to any of that. I think it's how you look at it. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think your real question is, can anybody, I don't want to say be a star, but like, could anybody be an influencer? Could anybody get on stage? And I think the answer is yes, but the desire has to be there. It might not be the desire to speak. I don't have the desire to speak publicly, but I have the desire to be successful. And I've said it before that a lot of people, I think they have too much ability to fail, meaning they have a job. I haven't had a job in almost 10 years, so there hasn't been a backup plan. And that can be really scary, but that's also like swallowing pride. For a long time, it was like starve to death or do something, take action. And a lot of times it was not the most dignified possible action, right? So we can avoid a lot of these situations just by having a job, and just, it's not a glamorous life, but when you don't have that at all. So I'm saying it's a detriment to be too spoiled in the modern world. It's another one of those things. If you never slept on a bench, I think you're at a disadvantage. I think the person who has experienced real lack, they do have an advantage in life. It's not good to have that forever, but it's good to experience the bottom, basically, and to be familiar with the bottom, because once you're there, it's very easy to take everything else in stride. Now, so can anybody do this? I think anybody can, but since it's so difficult, the person with an ego won't be able to do it. They just won't. It's too much work. Network marketing alone is too much work for the person with ego. I promise. Right? It can be the pathway to dreams. I've only ever seen it work either in people who learned, a lot of them got their ego killed by this business, by the way. Network marketing, excellent way to kill your ego. If you want to go out there and specifically do something that's hard and that it puts your neck out there, it's potentially embarrassing. It puts you in potential conflict if you screw it up with the people that you know and love. Definitely network marketing can kill your ego. Well, I know a lot of people who got their ego killed in this business and ended up very successful and very grateful because of it. But I also know a lot of simple folk, real simple folk. You mentioned plumbers. I think if you are a plumber, you can become someone, but I already know plumbers that made it. They made it because they had the strong desire, you know, coupled with everything else that they would need. But it really started there. So the answer is, can anybody make it? Can anybody be successful? It's no and yes. It's not going to happen by accident. It's not going to happen by your kindergarten teacher telling you that you're special and everyone gets a ribbon. Ribbon's not going to make it. You have to, in order to break free from the system, you have to take a ton of responsibility for yourself, for not taking it personally, for presenting the information correctly, for presenting it over and over, for making sure you get the proposition, for making sure you follow up with people, for making sure that the numbers are in at the end of the month, for making sure that your people are trained, for making sure, you see what I'm saying? The further you go, the more and more and more responsibility you have, that makes you more and more into the leader person, right? So Grant Cardone says, I wasn't born a salesperson, I was born a baby. I was born a baby. You know, I did not come easily into this business. I thought I had an ego death before I got into this business. I got crushed down a few more notches too. And now I'm really only operating on faith. I'm operating on faith. I'm operating on the basis of my past skills and systems that have been set up and the responsibility that I've committed to taking. There is no plan B, right? Sometimes people are like, you guys going to keep doing this? Like, I have other interests in life, but this is a responsibility. I mean, and it supersedes interest, right? And the responsibility is not just to this business, it's to business in general, right? I have chosen my fields, and it is my responsibility, my duty, and my obligation to be successful. Not for you, LaShawn, not for the audience, really not even for me. It's what it comes down to when you take responsibility. Who are you ultimately responsible for? It's probably your family and friends. It's the people around you, right? I have a wife to think about. This is not just about me. If it wouldn't her, it'd be something else, but it needs to be something else, probably, right? If it is all about you and you are the main concern and responsibility, then that's ego. You kind of mentioned fashion a little bit, people copying other people. If they even have time to think about that, they're not focusing on being the biggest they can be. They're not focused on their business. They're not focused on their strategy. They're bored. They have to be bored, in my opinion. Right? You can be fashion conscious and not have time at the same time, right? Like, you could throw it together. You don't need to copy people. If you're trying to copy people, then you're just putting way too much attention to it. I dress kind of like a hobo. I'm wearing a fishing hat right now. I don't even fish, you know. So I got paint all over my clothes and stuff because I don't have time to be concerned about it. It's many people at speaking events, people I know, full-time speakers, they usually don't actually care that much about those details. It's just like, as long as they have a clean shirt, right? They have their expected wardrobe and they just toss it on. They don't care what they look like as long as they're not disheveled. You know, they're not mustard on their tie or something like that. They're not going to be thrown off guard if you said something about their clothing. They're not going to care. They're going to be focused on delivering their value, and that's probably what you know them for. How many people do you know just on the basis of their style? Right? This is a counterpart to their personalities. Like even models, professional models, nobody comes to mind. Just being known for the way they dress.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Wow.
Or for the style they present things.
And that's the crazy part.
And let me say too that when you're presenting information, because you're doing this too, the less personality is kind of the better. We're not comedians. You know, Wallach has some ways in his delivery that's comedic. I don't think they're necessary for the overall delivery of the message. Everyone's going to tailor it to themselves, but you saying I'm kind of not copying people. Well, I've stolen whole paragraphs from Dr. Wallach, Dr. Glennon, and Ben Fuchs, and I've seamlessly have just put them into my own speech because I like their words. They said it correctly. I'm just going to say that. When I worked at the store, I'd be given the presentation. I'd be given the mineral presentation sometimes 10, 20 times a day. I would spit it out. It's a script. You know, it's not creative. Here, let me go a little bit deeper here. We're talking about ego, flow, success. This is flow. Like when you don't have to think about it, when you're not having to think about it being creative and all this stuff, you're not making it up. You're following the script. This is when you have achieved professionalism. People think it's bad to read a script. Well, when the batter is up to bat, they're not thinking, I'm going to totally reinvent the way to swing the bat today. No, they're following the system that they've trained, dialed in to the point where they don't have to think about it. The answers to the health questions come naturally after a while because it's drilled in. I don't have to be creative about it. Could you imagine if I had to be creative and make up an answer? Right? The golfer swings like a golfer should swing. He's not making it up. You know, the best he can do is kind of forget about it. If you hear? LaShawn, you hear me? Well, I hope you. Hey, you hear me? Hear me?
So as you were saying.
Yeah, so the golfer needs to forget about it, right? Basically, he needs to not think about it. You know, the artist, I've only kind of recently begun to be able to paint things just from my head, and it's because I've now not thinking about all the rules and stuff, because it's been drilled and all that kind of stuff, because my ego's not involved, my consciousness is not involved. Nobody who's a professional at anything, in the moment that they're doing their thing, none of them are thinking about how they're going to be judged and thought of. None of them are thinking about their legacy. None of them are thinking about any of that stuff. They're tunnel vision. When it comes to business and success, that's one tunnel. Then it gets even sharper on the individual specific task. Right? We're answering the questions. You've seen, you got to put a fair bit of work into just answering one question and just crisply answering that one question. It's a lot of calculations that are involved. It's hard to have anything else in your mind. If you're upset about something that day, you can't effectively do the job. Right? Wrap this back up to the start of the conversation. The person who works at McDonald's and has no responsibility, they don't have to worry about any of this stuff at all. They can go ahead and have their ego. It's not that much consequence. I don't think that's the way to success or happiness. But if you make the decision to try and be successful in this world, you've got such an incredibly huge task in front of you that you're going to need to focus with such discipline that you will have to have tunnel vision in whatever you're doing. 100%. Right? It's not just me that doesn't take a day off. You know, anybody who's really, really taking what they do seriously doesn't want a day off. I might want a day off to rest, but I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss the action. I don't want to let it go. I don't want to let the fire go out.
It's hard. And, you know, I remember I was trying to take a day off. And do you hear that? Okay.
Not really, no.
But I was trying to take a day off because I was like, I need to, you know, get my head together and stuff like that. And I always found myself editing a video or, you know, watching a podcast or listening to a podcast or watching, you know, one of Dr. Wallach's lectures again. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? But then I'm like, obviously I gotta do this. Like, it's not just,
idle hands actually are the devil. It's not just a passive thing. Idle hands is a poison. It's a poison on the soul. That drive that you have is a natural drive, completely natural drive. I do believe that work is salvation. Like, I do believe that work is like, this is how we find ourselves. I hope this doesn't sound like a communist manifesto or anything, but like, when we are not working, it doesn't mean shovel in the ground and anything. I consider reading working. I wake up and I immediately start working. You could think of as your body as part of that, right? If your daily exercise is part of your work, so I would think of reading, your personal improvement work. You need to keep your machine working. This is a critical, integral part. Then you wake up and you start working right away, right? The people who do this every day, they want to get the workout done. Doesn't mean it's the most fun or whatever. It could be grueling, but they want to do it. I want to wake up and read the boring book. I want it off the list. I want to keep going. I do want to go on the DMs. I want to get them done. I don't want to let them sit up. I want to maintain my responsibilities. I do want to do more. I want to start the next project. And then, you know, this is where the point where you don't need a day off. You might need a day off from certain things, like the DM, good example. You know, it's good to put the phone down, but this is just for outside reasons. It's got nothing to do with the drive for work. And if you also include rest, like, this doesn't mean never take a day off. It just means also, if you value your well-being, then rest is an integral part of that too. So if you are serious about, you know, being successful, you obviously do need to rest at some point as well. But you should maintain that urge that, like, hey, I'm looking forward to getting back to the office. It's just like we need to sleep at night too. Sometimes we're more excited than others and we can stay up a little bit later. But generally, as you do more and more of this kind of stuff, you don't need to sleep that much anyways. You find yourself wanting to sleep less. It's always been really interesting that we can make ourselves tired by doing nothing, right? The best way to stay exhausted is to be bored. Stay bored, do nothing and you'll have no energy. Do more and it's kind of limitless
I
of what we
remember
can really achieve.
all throughout college, I could never get up in the morning. Well, all throughout my life, I could never get up in the morning. And it was just like, I would be one of those teens that would sleep until like 12 or 1 in the day. And even after that, you're like, what? My mom will always ask, you slept all day. Like, why are you still tired? I'm like, I don't know why I'm still tired. But then once I, began to do this and start to have a drive, have responsibilities to do every morning and stuff like that, I found that it wasn't hard to wake up. Like, I would wake up at 6 and 7 in the morning just because. And I'm like, whoa, what do I do now? Or read a book, do stuff like that. There was one question I wanted to ask. It was earlier in the podcast, but basically, do you agree with plan B at all? So you're just saying, like, just throw yourself in, don't even think about a plan B?
Well, it would be irresponsible for me to totally say that, but I've lived irresponsibly, right? So sometimes I just kind of give a little warning, especially when younger, like people younger than you, like 18-year-old, 16-year-old guys, especially, they're asking me advice. And I have to say, you have to realize that I've been irresponsible, specifically, like on purpose. I was aware of it then. I'm more aware of it now. I purposely burned my boats. I purposely burned my bridges. I did irrational things. I got rid of all my stuff. I moved overseas with a suitcase. I almost didn't make it. I have starved. I have slept outside. And I have faced extreme hardships. I did have to come home with my tail between my legs. Worse, broke, right? So me saying that, yeah, you should go and do your own thing and all this stuff at all costs. Sure, but be prepared for the hardship that it really is. Now you're in a pretty comfortable situation, quite honestly, meaning that you already have a plan B. You have a living mother, at least, that I know about you, so you have a bed to sleep in kind of no matter what. And so do I. My mom's alive. If I really, really, really fail, I can go live at her place. I know that too. So I'm not saying zero plan B, but in my mind, there's no plan B.
Yeah.
No way. I've been criticized in life for jumping around on things, but I've been doing this 5-6 years now, and now there's too much responsibility. It's too real. There's no way I'm going to walk away from it. If this company, for some reason, went under, I would continue doing this exact same thing. We would reevaluate a bit, but we would stay on course. So this motivation it's a very wonderful thing, and it does wake you up. It does wake you up early. It gets you out of bed early. There's no reason to sleep in. I feel bad if the sun is up. If for some reason I sleep in long enough for the sun to be up, I feel horrible when I wake up. Truthfully, jump out of bed like, wow, I'm late. Late for what? I don't have a boss. No one's telling me what to do.
But I agree completely. I mean, you just feel like you lost the day. Like the whole day is gone when you wake up. And
well, hold on, LaShawn. What do you think about the plan B too? Like, what if your girlfriend had a plan B, right? Like, what? I don't want to have a plan B. What if I was telling you here, yeah, LaShawn, don't worry. If we fail, I'm going to move to Alaska and just, that's it. You'd probably be like, well, that's not really very nice. That's not a very comforting thought. That's not what you want a captain to say. You want a captain to say, no, we're going to make it through.
It kind of plays down the original plan to me in a way. Like, you got a plan B. It's like, oh, okay, it's fine. If that fails, then at least we have something other than if that fails, we're going to make it work until we can't work it anymore. And then start looking, adjust and adapt.
A tactic can fail. A product can fail. A video can fail. Maybe it didn't get the impact you believe. But the war is going to go on. We don't have another option as far as I can tell. And for me in my life, this was meaning I told myself, and I said it out loud, I'm never going to take a paycheck again. I was 21 years old when I said that. So it hasn't been easy to stick by that, but that was me burning my boats, saying that even when I'm down and out, I'm not going to get a job. I'm going to figure out a way to do it. And like I'm saying, that might not be great advice, because for me, it did lead to starvation. It did lead to very, very strong hardships. But at the very same time, like I said, with these kids with no skills and no responsibility, adults too, no responsibility, no skills, this is probably good for them. You know, this would probably be worth experiencing for a lot of people, burning the boat and seeing if they can do something. And maybe it does still fail, but as long as you didn't entertain that possibility the whole way through, you know, that at least you can guarantee that you're giving it your all. You're right. You don't have faith in the idea if you're ready for a plan B. You know, I hope my girl doesn't have a plan B. I don't have a plan B, and I don't want one, not in business, not in life or anything, you know. And this is like once you've reached 18 or 20 or whatever, once you've kind of figured out what it is you like to do, I do think more or less you should stick with that. Not only stick with it, but go incredibly hard. You mentioned the plumber. Like, I don't care if you're a plumber or you like to do model planes, you know, or you anything. I don't care. Bowling, whatever it is. We know that in the land of social media and Gary Vaynerchuk, we know we can
Yeah.
capitalize on everything that we do. So if we have any passion, not only should we follow that, but we should amplify that, because we won't be successful without amplifying it. Because you can't halfway
You
yourself
have
into
to fail.
success.
Like,
Just it's not
and
possible.
that's what everybody is scared of that. I don't know why. It's like, that's the best thing to do, to fail. It's amazing. You can't go through life. You can't go through life at all without failing. And to have everything go right in your life, to me, is like the worst thing that can happen. And it sounds contrary, but it's like, if you go through all this struggle early on in your life, you end up being able to know how to adapt and manage. But everything goes right your whole life. What if something goes wrong? Like, life is not, it's not very finite to, oh yeah, you know, have a happy life. I've got like billionaire parents and stuff like that. Stuff happens and it eventually does. I believe in like well, I don't really, I think I admire, I don't even know how to explain it, but the yin and yang.
LaShawn, there's a point here that success and
Okay.
happiness are not the same things. I think this is where the main confusion is. Grant Cardone goes into this as well. Hopefully people don't think I'm too much of a Grant Cardone disciple, but he says a
Yeah.
lot of really freaking clever things. People say things, crazy things like, oh, money doesn't buy happiness. They're different things. They're different subjects. Happiness is on you. Success is on
Mm.
your relationship to everybody else. Right? Your happiness is up to you regardless. It's got nothing to do with money or any of that stuff, but that doesn't make either one of them irrelevant. You see what I'm saying? They're
Would you say
separate
happiness is a skill,
disciplines.
like something that you have to grill at and drill on to actually achieve it in a way? I don't even, does that make sense to you?
Yes, but I would think
Okay.
of it as a study. Jim Rohn says happiness is a study. I would agree 100%. And a lot of it is just understanding and expectations, right? If you expect everyone to bend over backwards for you, you're going to be upset. And da da da. If you have realistic expectations, then you should be able to get along with the people around you. And that's probably one of the keys to happiness. You know, if you're comparing yourself to other people and all this kind of ego-driven stuff, you're probably not going to be happy. And probably just by studying happiness, you will realize that. And if the study alone isn't enough, then life should do it. And if you have the knowledge and the life experience and you still can't put those together, then that's kind of just on you. But most people, that happiness really isn't the primary problem. I think that's an excuse for a lot of people not to take action. They bring up the happiness thing as an excuse not to take action. I'm just saying that again. A lot of people will bring up happiness as the reason that they're not going full-fledged on their success. Does that make sense? A lot of people will say, oh, but I need balance in life. It's an excuse for not taking action. This is an excuse for not undertaking the monumental challenge of becoming successful in this world, putting your neck out there, starting a business, taking a chance, making a sale. It's way too much work. So lazy people will say something about happiness. Just like the lazy person will say, you know, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to become one of those
Yeah.
muscle heads. Right? It's an irrelevant excuse. It's a
So
straw
you're
man,
saying like
basically. You can be
happiness can
happy
be
or
like
not.
a
It's got
hinder
nothing to
for
do with
you
it.
in some cases. Is that what you're saying?
Happiness could be if you're too comfortable. But at the same time, the person who's too comfortable is not going to be in a conversation like this. The only reason that you're so keen to figure these things out is probably because of a strong desire to do better. So if somebody's comfortable, they don't have that desire. We say in sales that I can't sell you anything if you don't want anything. If you have everything, I can't sell you. I can't seduce you. I, quite frankly, have nothing to offer you if you don't want anything. You've got everything you need, right? Your health is perfect. You got all the friends you need. I got nothing for you, right? And in reality, that person doesn't exist. That person is also a straw man. We all do want something in life. Very, very, very few of us have everything we actually need. It's okay to be content with what we have. We have a little wooden house in the country. It's not much, but before that, we have nothing. I'm endlessly grateful for this small piece of what we have. And it would be very easy for me to say, we've got everything we need to be happy right now. It would be semi-true, but it would only be true to the lazy version of me, the version who's not taking responsibility, not just for now, but for the future, right? It might be true that I could just hang out here in my little wooden house and paint pictures and whatever, but I won't get anything more than that. I won't be able to support a family on that. And as Grant Cardone says, if the price of blueberries goes up, you're screwed. So anybody who's just saying, I'm fine with where I'm at right now, you're probably going to be screwed next week. Because the price of everything is probably going to keep going up. The job market's going to continue to be competitive. You're going to continue to age and be less competitive with your peers. And you're going to have ever more of a continuing, ongoing, forever responsibility to your family and such, And for the people who don't want to be a provider, again, it's just lazy. And if you have a provider and you don't ever need to provide anything for yourself, then it's good for you. But I'm being harsh here because the person I'm speaking to doesn't exist. Right? This is a straw man. Everybody who's listening will want more in life. Nobody who's listening will have everything given to them. Period. Even princes and princesses know that they need to gain some skills to feel good about themselves, and they need to be involved in something. You can't just have everything given to you, no matter what, period.
Yeah, I like how you put it. It actually made me think a little bit. I wish...
Well, remember that too. The next time that you hear anybody saying anything about balance, again, this is a golden excuse. The golden excuse. They'll say, "Oh, LaShawn, it's good for you. I see you've been grinding. Yeah, I see you've been paying off. But you know what? I just value the time with my family so much." You'll hear this kind of crazy stuff. "Oh yeah, I just value my free time too much." And you're saying, "Okay, it's just nonsense. It's nonsense excuses that we tell ourselves. It's as if you don't value time with your family and everything too." Let me just say one thing to promote our little business lifestyle that we got here. Since the beginning, my two real clear goals, the only ones that I could really be solid about. Number one, I wanted my supplements paid for because that was a problem. I was low on money. Number two, I wanted time to pursue art without the pressure of having to survive. When we're struggling to pay our bills every month, I really had a very, very hard time putting my soul into anything. So anytime I hear somebody saying like, "Oh yeah, look, I need balance in my life. I got a family and all this stuff," I'm like, I'm working my tail off for my family, right? I'm working it off. I'm working myself to the bone for my free time. Right now, I'm working as hard as I ever have in my entire life on my own projects. I think I've worked harder for other people, hour-wise, but I've never put more actual effort into business as usual. I've been working harder and longer than ever without real breaks. Every day, have not taken a day off. And I have more free time now, actually, because I wanted it. That was a goal. I wanted more time to paint. And that meant I had to go work harder, right? You hear people making the excuse, "I don't want to work harder because I got this balance." You got to take into consideration happiness, man. You got to kick back on the weekends. They say this nonsense. You don't have to kick back on the weekends for a few years, right? You can grind now in order to pay it off later. You can stress now, not stress, but you can go hard now in order to be stress-free later. And it is 1,000,000% worth it I have been a person with no responsibility before. It's not worth it. Number one, it's depressing. Number two, as much as you think you got all the time in the world to do everything, if you had no responsibilities, it's not true. When you got no responsibilities, you got to fight demons all day. It's the real truth. And if you try and squeeze work out of yourself, I guarantee it's not going to be the best work. My paintings from those years were not anywhere even close to the best work that I could do then, and it's nowhere near what I could do now from the fruits of the labor of taking all this responsibility in all these different directions.
So what would you say to somebody like just starting off the same path as me, and they're like, I don't know what I want to do in life, and I don't think I have any drive to do anything at all, and what's a good start for me or something like that? Because I feel like that's a kind of a vague question.
No, it's not. I have an answer. I was taking a drink of water. Sometimes when I drink I've been playing around with these different headphones, and sometimes it sounds like I'm like pouring water down this rushing valley. I'm just taking a little sip. There's a YouTube channel I like. It's called Real Men, Real Style. A man named Antonio runs it. I really like him, and I'm pretty fashion retarded, so actually he's been a lot of help to me over the years. And one of the things he says is embrace the suck. Embrace the suck. Across my stomach, I've got tattooed the words embrace the pain. And I think that would be the best advice, because all the stuff I said about the kids now being at a disadvantage because their life is too easy and social media makes it too easy for you to present yourself in a way that looks too cool and you don't have to prove yourself. Well, if you do embrace the pain or embrace the suck, for the example of the suck, the person, okay, let me better example. One time we were in Costa Rica and someone had to crawl underneath the porch to undo a water main so that we had water in this building. And nobody wanted to do it, obviously, because we know there's bullet ants, and whoever's going under there, you're going to get stung by bullet ants. It's how it's going to go. Nobody wants to do it. First of all, I watched the biggest egos in the group quietly slip away, so they're nowhere to be found when the straws are actually drawn. Next, when the straws are actually drawn, I drew the small straw. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go under there. And in fact, I'm supposed to be a team leader here. So, there's one area where you could be entitled and be like, I'm one of the leaders. I'm not going under there. And then the other side says, if you are a leader, then you go and you embrace the suck. The one who actually does the hard thing, you actually are the hero. You are the leader, and you actually have taken some of the pain that other people don't have to. And you're going to grow more as a result. And they're all going to pat you on the back when they're done. They're all going to be grateful for that. And whether or not they did it wouldn't matter. But truthfully, the reality is once you do one of the sucky things that you have to do in life, you got to take that bullet. You got to swallow your pride and do that. Realistically, a little bit of your burden is lightened, because the people around you look up to you and they don't want you to do all the stupid little tasks anymore. It's crazy by taking responsibility on the crappy stuff that nobody wants to do. Now suddenly people expect you to do less of the actual crappy stuff in the end, and you get to be more and more and more of a leader. But if you do that stuff, though, the sucky stuff, and you're kind of doing it, you've been doing the DMs. In my opinion, the DMs, that's the hardest part. That's the suckiest part.
Yeah.
It's not the fun part of this business by any means. And being on stage might be nerve-wracking. Man, it's easier than being at the back handling the customers. Way easier to just get on stage. So you're doing it. You're in the trenches. That's part of why I'm pushing you on the questions too, because you'll get more and more confident. People will see it more and more. You'll get more and more little tips, and your presentation will just be tightened up. My original story questions were nowhere near that as well presented as they are now, and I still have a long way to go. But the advice to anybody is do the opposite of what we're kind of taught to do. We are kind of led to believe that since we are special, check this backfire out, since we are so special, that somebody saying something bad about us, they either must be crazy or they got to be... or we got to be wrong about ourselves, right? They're wrong or we're wrong. And this is a huge dilemma. So if you just forget about that and, realize that no one cares, basically, and whether they do or not, it's not useful for you to worry about that. You keep doing the sucky things. You keep embracing the suck and embracing the pain, embracing the failures, right? Instead of fearing failure, the opposite is embrace it. Seek opportunities to fail faster. Right? Get more failures in faster and faster so you can get through that. You don't need to spread it out. If you're already on the path to greatness, so to speak, then putting yourself on more and more landmines, I think, is the number one way to do it. And it doesn't mean just go out and do a stupid talk and like, don't deliberately do a bad talk. Don't deliberately make bad posts. It just means do more. And if you're not at your limit yet, if you are comfortable about what you're doing, go past that. Somebody asked me recently, they said they're a successful person. I think they said they made $300,000 a year as a single person. To me, that's a lot of money. And they said, I'm kind of lacking the motivation to go further, right? Because they have a career that pays them this money. And the whole Grant Cardone, Gary Vee thing is like posting 6 times a day and you're up and you're answering messages. And it's a lot of work, right? So this person is saying to me, understandably, like, it seems like a lot of work to do this. And I'm really having a hard time even getting started. I know I should brand myself, but I'm just having a hard time getting started. And I said, you should make it harder on yourself. So if you got all this extra money, because you're supposed to be following the formula anyways, you got to save at least 10% for investments, put 20% down for your pay off your debts and all that. I'm saying, well, if your debts aren't paid off, then you can just balloon that number up, right? Because there's a problem that this person has too much money left. See what I'm saying? A lot of us, we don't have enough money left at the end of the month. This person's problem was they had too much money, not enough motivation. So I said, well, get rid of some of the money. You don't have to give it away. Instead of paying $100 a month on your debt, just say, paid $3,000. How much you got left? Are you hungry yet? Make it hungry, right? Are you only saving 10%? Kick it up to 40%. Can you do that? Make yourself uncomfortable so that on Friday night when your friends say, hey, you want to go out to drinks? You say, actually, I don't have enough money to do it. And they're like, you make $300 a year. Is everything okay? But now you got your fire lit under you. You've become a little bit uncomfortable. You've become a little bit embarrassed. You're going without, right? You're experiencing lack in the safety of course, this is a big safety net here, but still, the answer to this person was not just like, just will it, don't just believe it. Make it harder. Burn the boats. If you got too much money to be motivated, get rid of some of the money. If you're not embarrassed enough, do more. Do something new. Start a YouTube channel. You know how much it sucks to post on a YouTube channel with less than 100 subscribers? Feels like you're talking to nobody. Put all week into a video and nobody watches it. It sucks. But within that process, you're going to think hard, real hard. What could I do to present myself better? What could I do to market myself better? We started a bunch of YouTube channels. We're going a bit long here. I didn't mean to. I also went long this morning. Started a bunch of new YouTube channels last year. And it's bugging me how hard YouTube is to grow. So I'm saying, what could I do? I could cry about it and just give up. It's the easy option, but I don't have a plan B. So our plan A is to continue going forward and to continue growing, continue hitting new platforms, etc. So well, what can I do? There's a few options to do. Number one, I can promote it on my other channels. Number two, I can join a bunch of groups on Facebook and then post that stuff on my page and share it to those groups. Well, that worked a lot. I got a whole bunch of new subscribers, a whole bunch of new attention. I got some new customers. It's because of the pain of having an account that isn't doing well, it's failing. Why? What's really finding it out? All of this is so much effort. It just won't be done by the person who's not motivated enough. So you ask, should you have a plan B? If you got a plan B, a safety net might be the best kind of thing. Sure, maybe it has some value, but
me either.
I don't see any outright value in having the safety net, truly. And I criticized a book recently. I can't even remember the name of the book. It's about the lady was giving advice on how to just quit their job, but it's called Leap right there. Tess Vigeland, Leap. And I thought it was kind of irresponsible because she had such a strong safety net that when she left, it didn't really matter, right? So a lot of the people that are asking, should I take the leap basically into like this branding concept or whatever? And I think I agree with Gary, where it's like, you should keep your job, but absolutely spend all of the rest of your time building the brand with obsessive effort, So you don't have to burn the boats right away, but I would get real serious about building that next ship and then start to forget about the old one. And then when it's done, quit, move on. But you're not in that situation. You're young, so all you got to do is build that boat And the only things that are going to stop you from building that boat are people that distract you, people that convince you that it's not going to work or something like that. If you ignore all of that, you saved yourself half of every obstacle that's even out there. And then all the rest of it is in yourself, right? Saying, oh man, I've been knocking on doors for a year now and I'm not doing that good. You got to keep going, right? Someone's going to stop you, or you're going to stop yourself. And those are the only possibilities.
Yeah.
Even if you get hit by a car, there's paraplegics in this business. You know, there's paraplegics who are speakers. So there's very little excuses left, because we're going to be able to find a not able-bodied person who does the job, whatever the job is, chances are.
So focused on, well, let me just say, like, with dealing with you and just watching how you operate and stuff like that, I've kind of learned how to not associate people and their opinions and stuff like that on the work I do. And it's helped in a lot of ways. Like, one time I remember I was in the DMs, and you have a handful of weird or funny DMs, and you're like, what the heck? And I'm so, like, I used to be so what is it? I wanted to like try to talk about them with you and be like, look at this guy and stuff like that. And then I started realizing, I was like, what's the point? Like, yeah. And that's
because you realize exactly, I don't care.
Like, I remember it was like
at all.
A couple of months ago, I had the text made out, and I was like, what is he really gonna say? Because he always says the same thing. He's like, oh yeah, well, yeah, that's that guy.
Just tell them thank you. That's what I usually say. They could come on, and they don't, but they could come on and say, you guys are bad people. That's it. And worst case, I'd say thank you.
I feel like everybody's focused on how they look when they're responding to that type of, trolling or whatever that whatever you would call it. Yeah.
That's the make or break. If you lose your composure with that, then it's going to say a lot about you, truthfully. And when you consider the bully thing too, it's like, so this person's angry. It just says that they have a problem. It doesn't need to be your problem. This can go way deeper. There's Buddhist concepts in here and stuff. Like, if somebody's angry with you, or they have hatred or something, that can be infectious. I mean, they can infect you with that if you accept it, but it's a two key system. You have to accept it, right? You also have to consciously put effort in to not accept it, right? If you do not know these things, if you put no effort in, then you will just take things at face value, and that you will accept other people's anger. You will accept other people's hatred, jealousy, whatever it is. It will become yours. It's yours now, right? It was this other person's anger. They're saying, you suck. If that makes me angry, they gave me that anger. I don't want their anger. Just go back to the responsibility thing. I don't have time to be angry. Right? I don't have time to be jealous. I don't have time to compare myself. I barely have time to do all the stuff on my own list, and then I got new stuff going on the list. What does this hater have? They don't get an appointment with me. Right? They don't get to give me their anger. And if you look at it like this, like that, it's their problem in a sense. They could be a good person and they're at a low point, but the fact is, at this point, they're at a low point. I don't need a person at a low point to give me their experience. I don't want their experience, right? Anger and fear and jealousy and hatred, these are low vibration. I don't want to be in that vibration. And when you make that conscious choice, you can avoid it. To your point, what you just said, I see a lot of these woke accounts. I see them in their comment section. Like, I don't even check comments. Sometimes they're so upset about it, they screenshot the comment argument and then they post that.
Do that, and I'm like, how do you have that much energy to put into all of this hate? Like, they'll try to back it all up with studied research and stuff like that, and then all it does is the other person comes back with studied research, and like, you're both doing the same thing. There's so much confounding factors.
Well, what it really does is it shows a lot of people that you're on a low vibration at that moment, and it's not cool. It's not a good look. And even sometimes when you've seen it before, sometimes they'll say something that's actually just incorrect. Like, you're trying to throw mud from a lie, and I don't like that. And it's not me taking it personally. It's not my ego. It's just like, we're promoting information here. So if you want to talk about information, use truthful information. Don't say lies, you know what I mean? Or things that are just factually incorrect. Don't say I'm an agent. I'm not an agent. You know what I mean? So I feel compelled to respond. But even then, I don't want anybody to see me responding to that. And I feel myself accepting their anger, their hatred, their criticism. And I don't want it. I just don't want it. And it's taken a lot. Early me, 2 years ago, early on the account, the Wallach account, I would respond to some of them. I had to be like, "Yo, Ryan, you need to stop doing that. You need to not respond to any of them, or just say thank you." And that's it takes a lot of discipline to say thank you to a hater. But you've seen it. It tends to shut them right up. They just don't have anything to say to it. This is fire with water, right? Go ahead and let someone scream at you. Tell them you love them. Seriously. If you can't muster the thank you because it's kind of snarky, just tell them you love them. See what they say. They can't say much, you know. And if someone's blowing flames at me, I need some water for myself. This is deep, but this is like the emotions of water. You know what I mean? If someone's spreading hatred at me, I don't want that affecting me. I don't want any of it. I need extra love right now. I need somehow to find the good in it. And truthfully, saying thank you or I love you, whether you even type it or not, you can say it to yourself. It tends to just shut the whole situation up. But if you tell a hater thank you or I love you,
and I've asked you,
chances
like,
are
how
they'll
do we
shut up.
respond?
Some of them
like,
can become supporters.
And I would just sit there. I was like, what are you talking about? But then, like, as I've seen that be applied in like different scenarios and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, it actually works. And beyond that, you don't even have to do anything, because most of the time people in the comments will come to your backing. Grant spoke of that one time. He was like, I didn't even have time, because the people that believed in me, the people that are invested in what I have to say, they are automatically come and blow up that person and stuff like that. I remember you posted, and I don't want to get too long, but I remember you posted something about abstinence, trying to practice abstinence among, not doing the drugs, like, plan B and stuff like that. And I saw all this hate in the section, and you were just, and they were
They're
like,
calling me a beta
all
male
I
and
saw
stuff.
was that
Yep.
you liked,
I remember.
and then there was another thing, and then the comments would be like, they'd be like, okay, bye. And I was like, see, like, he doesn't even need to respond at this point. Like, they match his energy. And I'm saying the people that follow, our followers, our true followers, they kind of match that energy and come to, like, not the rescue, but like, you don't really need to say anything, and it just shows that you don't need to say anything. Somebody lists a 5-paragraph thing on one of your posts and nobody responds. That's the last time they're gonna say anything, or you would say thank you, and it's over. And that took me a lot, honestly, right? Because like I got a couple of those comments, those troll comments or whatever, and I used to not know how to respond to that, but now, like, it's easy. It's so easy. Like, you don't even have. You can just say thank you, one word, and it's over.
Well, I think the easiest way to make someone not like you is to tell them that you don't like them. If you want a guaranteed way to annoy somebody or to just make them probably never like you ever, it's that strong. Just tell them, I don't like you. You don't have to say anything else. No emotion. So the opposite of that is telling them that you like them. And you don't even have to. It's the funniest thing about this whole like vibration thing. I don't even think honesty even matters. It's literally uttering the words "thank you" or "I love you" just automatically generates the appropriate frequency, and this seems to calm you down as well. So if you want to be in fights all the time, then easily just keep fighting.
Yeah.
But it takes so much energy to fight a calm person, right? When you want to rouse somebody up, respond to them directly, right? In an argument form, they come at you with an argument. Go ahead and respond directly. That's the way to guarantee you're going to continue an argument. But to take all their energy away, don't give them any energy. Say thank you, love you, have a good day. We're here anytime.
Exactly.
Come to DMS, ask us a real question if you want. Hey, I understand that you feel that way, but honestly, in our experience, we think otherwise,
Mhm.
and we're still willing to help you out
You
with that
can.
too, if you'd like.
And I don't
You
even
know,
think
how are you
like,
going to hate me for that? It's really easy to hate me if I
yeah,
say, yo, I hate
it's
you.
like,
You might hate me forever.
I don't think that, dang, man, I just lost it. But, yeah.
It's most likely a bad day for them, is what I feel. Like, my faith is that it's probably got nothing to do with me, or it's based on some kind of confusion or misunderstanding. By arguing with them, I know I'm not going to convince them of anything. So if they do have an actual technical objection,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear it. And I'm giving them the opportunity to
Yeah.
say it, basically. And sometimes they become supporters. These people can be turned into supporters. Sometimes they're just testing you. People have done that. They say, oh, I was messaging you some hard questions, and I was doing it kind of rudely to test you. People have said this. So I think we can pass the test because we're being honest. You know, it's not like our answers are really going to change too much. We might get something technically incorrect, but you keep coming back for more
Yeah.
questions. It should make more and more sense, at least what our stance is. So sometimes they're just confused about what our stance is.
Yeah, that's like
And
what I wanted
sometimes
to
we can
say
mess that up
earlier
by
was like
combating with them.
arguing. I don't know if you said this before, but it was kind of a realization. It was like arguing gets you nowhere. It's just everybody, when the two individuals or two parties are arguing, they're just, um, radiating. I don't know if I'm saying the right word, but they're just putting out their belief. They're just putting out their belief. They're not listening to yours. Yeah. So it's like a zero sum game
Yeah, no one's
essentially
being
because
convinced. No one's being
you
convinced.
walk away with the reinforced belief that, oh, see, I'm right because that person's crazy and that person's thinking the same thing. Probably the audience or somebody, a bystander would be leaning towards one party or the next, but as far as the specific arguers, I don't think it solves anything, and it doesn't.
Absolutely. And this is also why if I'm ever answering a combative person, I'm going to try and do it respectfully, and that's the only time I'm going to post it so that the audience can see it. Because if anything, they might be persuaded by it. I don't think the person I'm talking to is going to be persuaded. So I don't. If anything, if it's set up like a debate, like you use the word zero sum, it's created it into a zero sum situation. There has to be a winner and a loser. That's not a discussion per se, right? The old like platonic way of discussion or debate would be trying to figure out what the other person really believes. You know, a lot of what debating was asking questions in order to clarify what the other person's premise actually is. Because most of the time, once you can agree on the language and the premises that you guys are actually talking about, most of the time it's pretty hard to disagree with the resulting philosophy. Right? All philosophy will be based on a premise. Often there's disagreements with the premise. In a debate, like a presidential debate, you don't see them really asking like, so what really is the core of your premise here? You know, they don't use their podium time to ask questions. They use their podium time to bark their point of view. Whereas to actually gain understanding, I would need to ask this person, why do you believe this? You know, in reality, since I'm in the business and I'm a professional in this now, I know where the opinion came from. I know what the mainstream opinion is. So I'm not surprised that a person doesn't agree with us. So therefore, how am I going to argue as well? This is just like the bear being a bear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to argue with ignorance. I expect ignorance. Our job is to give information. And if there is hostility, our job is to find out the source of that hostility and cool it down somehow or give them a real legitimate answer.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they are actually incorrect about what we are proposing. Right? You've heard some people saying, so you guys are proposing that we have to take your magic mineral stuff or we're all going to die? Well, not really. That's kind of a confusion of what we're actually saying. Our message is a little bit more nuanced than that. And usually in a conversation, we can bring these nuances out. This is also why we don't really engage in the comments.
Yeah.
This is impossible to have an actual dialogue in the comments. We can't keep track of it. So I'm not going to, if there's fire going on in the comments, I'm not going to even participate in it.
Mm-hmm.
They get a thank you, they get a like, or they get a
Mm-hmm.
DM us, and that's pretty much it. So in all of this, I don't think we found anything really for the ego to do. If the person is busy and taking responsibility, there is no ego. When things come up that need to be done, you will do them. When things need to get better, you will do it better. When more snow falls and you got to shovel it, you'll do it. You're not going to look around and look for other people to pass off the responsibility on. You're just going to do it. And all the stuff that ego wouldn't do, you'll swallow your pride and do it. And within this too, you'll see that confidence is just a natural consequence. This is why I think of confidence and ego as two sides, basically, of the same coin, the same force that needs to be gotten a hold of. Because once you've conquered this and you've eliminated fear through faith in the plan, faith in the skills, faith in the system, faith in whatever, faith in God, anything, and confidence is just natural. That is the result of a person who is operating responsibly on faith.
Like, you're like philosopher level sometimes. Mm-hmm.
Well, I've thought a lot about this particular subject. Think of the football player again. Think of the jock, right? This guy's not confident just because he's a football player. He has faith that they're going to win the game. They've trained. They show up for training. He's got the muscles. He's been in the gym. There's a reason he's confident, right? If it's not, if some person's just coming out saying, I'm going to win this football game, you look at them, they're 92 pounds. They're going to get crushed. Hopefully they experience an ego death from that and they don't make crazy claims like that next time, right? But chances are the jock is pretty confident for a reason. We're confident in our systems, our business systems and our products for a reason, right? We're not guessing here. We've got results to go on already. We've got things to give us confidence. We've got faith in these products already, basically. It's not blind faith. We've got experience-based faith and all of this stuff. And let me, if I can give a final thought, and I'll let you have the microphone for the final thought too, though. But one of the things that probably squeezed the last bit of ego out of me was spending my last dollar. And I've done this a few times in life now, but there were some real broke years there. And I mean last dollar. I mean, there's nothing left. There's no savings account. I don't have a credit card. I'm in a credit card 10 years. So that means this last $5 in my hand or this last $20 in my hand is it. This is it. There's no more fuel to go on the boat after this. And it's such a precarious situation that people can lose their mind in this situation. People can break down and run home, But when you've done this a few times, you realize that there's some magic about this world that when you give away your last dollar or spend it or whatever, as long as you're not being reckless and crazy, it's going to come back almost immediately. Sometimes there's been some times that, and I don't want to even sound like I'm trying to credit myself too more. By the way, the person who needs credit can be manipulated too. I wanted to say that on this podcast too, that if you have this ego and you need credit for things and you need validation, well, now I can manipulate you with that. I can manipulate you with compliments and all that kind of stuff. If you didn't have ego, you can't manipulate me with compliments. It's not going to work. So I kind of lost my other point in what I was saying there before.
I'm just going to parrot like what you've been saying and stuff like that. I remember about a couple times, at least 3 times, I've had people reach out to me and like email, and they're saying like, you're missing a big opportunity in life, wasted potential. And they'll give me all of this stuff and information. And it's actually been from people who I thought, were cool at first. And then they're like trying to get me to go to this other thing. And what you sent me, the Grant Cardone thing, keeps playing in the back of my head. And it was like, don't let other people try to sway you. Like, although it may seem tempting, you just stick to what and what you're doing, and be so busy that you don't even have the time to put up with stuff like that. And that's like the whole premise of what we've been talking about. It's all mindset. And that's what I've learned. And I feel like you have such an evolved mindset that like, I see people asking you life questions, not health, not anything to do with health or anything, or in Instagram. They're asking you life questions because they see how you carry yourself. And to me, that's the perfect drive. I want to be at that point to where I'm so, I wouldn't say, I have so much faith in what I do, and day in and day out that, I look like a well-established person without even trying. That's basically what I want to go for. I know I'm trying under all of that, under all the dirt and stuff like that. I'm working my ass off, but still, it's like, I don't know. I don't mean to keep relaying back. Yeah.
I think it's just a time thing. I think
Mhm.
that's really all it is a time factor. But I think you're on an accelerated path right now. And like I said, you are young. I always forget specific ages, but I know you're under 25. And so that means you're way, way ahead of the game, right? People don't realize I was almost at 29 still. Right? So, I mean, I'm late to the game. There's a huge need for leadership.
Yeah.
What you just said here, the fact that anybody is looking up to me, what that says to me, this world is in trouble. Quite honestly, seriously, because I had a lack of mentors too. And I know that this lack of responsibility, lack of skills, too much ego, this is at crisis levels. This is so abundant. And it's such a huge problem. And there is so few people to look up to. So the fact that not only I'm not a millionaire, I'm not that old, and whatever, there's some good things about me, but the fact that people are looking up to me at all just shows that there ain't that many people to look up to, really. And that means that you have the ability to do this too. The moment that you take more responsibility than the person next to you, you could be the same age, this could be your best friend that you grew up with, you have the exact same experience. The moment you step up and take a little bit more responsibility, now that person can look up to you and they can ask you a serious question, or you can give them serious advice. You don't need to be the professional to be able to give advice. All you need to be is a little bit better off than that next person, right? And as you continue on more and more, you're going to keep stepping up and up and up and up and up and up. And now all kinds of people are going to be down there not knowing what to do. You know what it's like, right? Not knowing what's out there, all this stuff. Where are those people looking? They're looking all over the place. And what they're not finding is a lot of people worth looking up to. They're not finding a lot of mentors. They're not finding a lot of people who carry themselves with a lot of respect. I put a lot of effort into carrying myself like this because of this. Not only do I want to be successful, but because this is part of what I believe makes a better world. I literally believe that spreading the minerals themselves, like, forget about our business. Spreading the minerals will make my life better in many ways because it'll make our whole world better, because it'll make the traffic jams less bad. Like, literally, if people didn't have blood sugar problems, our world would be better in many different ways. Well, if people stepped up and took responsibility, our world would be better in countless ways. I think even more so than nutrition. If people acted more like a leader and not like a lazy, privileged, entitled modern citizen who doesn't need to take any responsibility from anybody, right? I don't need to take nothing from nobody. This stupid attitude that's really just washed away any semblance of
And
what I
people
would
don't
call
even realize
culture, at least a culture worth
how
participating in. So
privileged we actually are.
as
Like,
you
if you compare what we're doing now, even the average person in the hood or something like that, people back then weren't getting honey and sugar. Yeah, exactly. And
you got hot water. These
the
guys
best
got hot
shoes,
water
the
and
best
iPhones in
clothes.
the
I'm
hood
like,
talking about
yo,
they have it hard,
you're living life
you know?
compared to some people who actually don't have a house, like legit don't have a house, but they're happy. It's like, yeah, I think you're judging your life too much. It's such an easy thing, and you're making it so complicated. I heard that on Instagram one time. It was like, smart people. What was it? No, they were like, stupid people make things more complicated to make it look better for them. So like they'll study calculus or something like that, and be like, look, man, I can do calculus. What can you do? And then he said the lazy person is just doing the normal stuff, the easy, bare minimum stuff, and then the smart person is actually going out there, but they're making stuff easier for them. It's still a lot of work, but they're not working harder necessarily. They're working smarter. They're getting a lot more done for a minimal amount of work that it should take. I don't know if that makes sense how I worded it.
It makes sense to me. LaShawn, let me say in closing here. Closing. Your presentation and your level of comfort here in speaking right now is 10 times better than the last time that we spoke. So based even on your search for this success and such, it's pretty much a guarantee that you'll get it as long as you keep this attitude and you don't quit. But the progress you've made is so significant that people already are looking up to you, by the way, whether you even know it or not. I know people who have commented on you and commented on your progress, and we are tracking your progress, and they can see that you're a case that is going to grow much further and much faster than the average person. And I think quite literally the only factor, not to knock you down a peg or anything, but since you brought it up, I do believe that there ain't nothing special about any of us, that every single one of us can make a choice to be something great. And it is obvious that you have made that choice to take that responsibility. You have impressed me. You've done more than I thought you were going to do. You've done better. You've done a better job at that than I expected anybody to do. I'm grateful to have you on the team, and you will have people, if they're not already, you will have people that are looking up to you very, very, very quickly. And once that happens, this is, to me, the last piece of the puzzle in terms of ego death. Once that finally happens and you finally do accept this responsibility, you now realize that you are accountable to the audience, and that will keep you in check. Not only will it keep you from doing stupid things like cursing unnecessarily and stuff, right? I don't curse. It's not because I don't curse. I curse in real life. I don't curse on record because one or two times, people within our company, Longevity, just distributors, reached out to me personally and said, I'd really prefer it if you didn't curse. Basically, more or less. That's what they said to me. And it's not a threat. I don't owe these people anything, nothing. But I feel the responsibility to the audience in general, and I feel that their comments were a genuine reflection of the audience. And since then, I have not cursed at all. And that's going to be the same way with how you conduct yourself, right? It would be irresponsible of me to be a total mess on camera. I know there are people looking up to me, right? I know that there are people who, if I were to embarrass myself, and this goes for anybody who's like in the spotlight, if I was to embarrass myself, I'd be letting a whole bunch of people down. And it's not about them, their feelings or my feelings. It's about that this is a role model that they looked up to, right? When you find out your favorite baseball player used steroids, it lets you down. You know, it takes away a bit of the possibility for you. You know, so it basically, it forces you to be the best that you can be. Me as a person, my actual human form, I don't care how I look. I don't care what my hair looks like. I don't care if I swear. I don't care about swearing. I grew up around swearing. But I have to present myself to the best of my ability because I feel this ingrown, developed responsibility to the audience. It means I'm going to wake up every day and work. That's just part of it. It's not for them. It's not even for me. It's just, this is just the gears of the system. You know, once you've taken responsibility, this whole plan B thing, there isn't another option. Like you said, I wake up and I work because that's the way it is. I conduct myself to the best of my ability because I have to. There isn't another option. I cannot be a slob. And if I'm not feeling good that day, I still have to perform that day. I can't afford to take days off. I have a housemate here too. We're kind of like jail cells. Cellmates. We've been here on lockdown for a year together. One of us has a bad day, it knocks the other one down. Right? You see what I'm saying? That means consciously, whether we like it or not, we have somewhat of a responsibility to the happiness of the other person that we're sharing our space with. So I'm saying, once you take that responsibility and you realize, oh, I'm having kind of a bad day, well, it's destructive of me to act upon those feelings. The only answer is to put my head up or my head down or whatever it is and work. Right? I need to do what I need to do. I need to put my best face forward. I can't mope around, etc. I'm going around in a circle here, but it becomes self-reinforcing. Once you accept the responsibility, you can't slack off. You shouldn't let yourself, because of the way that you've entangled yourself into it. This can feel suffocating for some people. Those are people who are attached more to laziness, basically, I think, than they are success.
You know, I'm hoping that we can. Well, I already know, but I feel like I want to talk more about just talking. I don't know what the next subject would be, but I do enjoy this, and thank you for the kind words. I have really been working at it. I'm trying to work to a point to where, you'll be like, I'm busy, Sean, can you do the questions for today? And I'm like, sure. So that's why I started doing questions. A couple of people reached out to me to do podcasts, so I'm trying to do podcasts. They want to do it like every week, and this other person wants to do it every Friday and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm just saying yes to everything because I'm trying to. I see, like, I not see, but I can listen to how I sound doing stuff like this, and it makes me want to work at it more. That's the only way I'm going to get it done. I mean, I know this wasn't the perfect podcast, but I feel like I've gained a lot from it. And even from listening to my last podcast, I can see, I can feel the difference. And so I just thank you for, like, you know, taking the time to educate me in such a way. It's been really beneficial. Um, uh, as I said before, you changed my life, and I don't want to keep going on. So you feel like this is a good stopping point?
I do, and I appreciate you too. And by the way, this whole, like, just hearing you say, like, doing this once a week thing, totally worth it. Number one, it's pressure. You put yourself on a deadline. You put yourself on a commitment. You put yourself on a responsibility. Even if you got nobody listening, you still should follow through with that. And speaking once a week, if it's an hour or whatever, very good practice. More than once a week is great too, but once a week is a solid commitment. That's all I did at the start. The Wednesday evening strictly business conference call, did it for 1 hour every single week with commitment. If anything, it hardened up my discipline. It made me feel more professional, gave me a lot of practice speaking the message and sometimes repeating things. You do something every week, people are going to repeat questions and stuff and whatever. You'll get better and better at it, etc. I think it's a phenomenal way to practice, and it wraps up pretty much everything that we've talked about here. That type of thing, committing to a once a week podcast release, that's something that takes a lot of pride to swallow, right? You got to get rid of a lot of ego to be able to do that. And I'm proud of you for doing that, quite honestly. And it should work out. In the sense that 5 years from now, you should be a heck of a presenter. And the podcast invites will continue to be regular, and you will figure out the best way to handle that into your own business. And it's a great opportunity. Thank you for taking the time
truthfully to, like, discuss this subject with me. That's all I got. Until next time.
That's all I got for now too, truthfully. So it's a pretty it's a subject that goes around in circles, but it's incredibly important. Until we get all this stuff, it doesn't make sense. And when we get this is like the key to life.
Just like I said before, like, people ask you for life advice, and you're like, I just subscribe. I just prescribe, you know, different type of vitamins and minerals for different conditions, and they're like, how do I pay off my rent? And I'm like, whoa. But yeah.
That's true. Well, we're going to be able to get to promote more and more lifestyle as we go on. And this podcast even has given us an opportunity to do that a little bit more, talk more and more about the lifestyle, recording distributor calls and stuff. Eventually, we should be promoting lifestyle, hopefully full time. Hopefully that's like what it's about in the end, because the products really are a very small part of that anyways. And the successful, like, health also means vitamin M, right? Maybe that would be the next topic we talk about, because what we do in promoting health information, to me, promoting success information is pretty much the same thing.
All right.
Well, let's leave it there, LaShawn. Let's get it next time. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody listening. That's all my recording done for the day.
Take care.
And definitely check out my newest book, Fake Diseases. It covers all of the major topics that come up, like birth defects, blood sugar problems, bone and joint problems, cancer, autoimmune problems, and more. And it's on Amazon for just $9.99. And the audiobook read-along version is free here on YouTube, and the link for that is in the description of this video. Make sure to check out our food YouTube channel called Notus Foods. This is 100% Dr. Wallach approved. And the chef that is preparing the food here and teaching you how to follow Dr. Wallach's food guidelines and Dr. Glidden's food guidelines. He's an industry professional, over 22 years experience and a college diploma to back it up. And we do have experienced cooks and bakers as well, working on content for the YouTube channel Notus Foods and the Instagram channel Notus Foods. It's 100% gluten-free, oil-free, all the stuff about burning fats and all of the rules that you would need to know or follow. We're here to teach it to you here, as well as give you tons of ideas for recipes, individual dishes, and meals. Of course, in the near future, we do have a cookbook coming out. Stay tuned for it. And if you'd like to talk to us directly, you can call us. Actually, you can call Judy. She's downriver Detroit. You can call from anywhere in the US, Canada, Mexico, UK, Australia, New Zealand, any other country. You want to email us or send us a DM on whatever app that you want to contact us on. Instagram is super convenient for us. And that's for any sales or product information in those countries. or any distributor information